Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the massive alien ship appear in Earth's orbit like a dark mountain floating in space. The bridge crew fell silent as the enormous vessel cast its shadow across half the planet. Jake had spent 30 years in the Space Navy, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. The alien ship was at least 10 times larger than Earth's biggest battleship. Its surface was covered in strange metal that seemed to shift and move like liquid, and bright blue lights pulsed along its hull like a heartbeat. Jake's hands gripped the railing as he watched more ships appear behind the first one, dozens of them, each one bigger than anything humanity had ever built. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," said Lieutenant Amy Foster from the communications station. Her voice shook slightly as she spoke. "It's coming from the large ship." Jake nodded. "Put it through." The main screen flickered and then showed the interior of the alien vessel. The creature that appeared was unlike anything from Earth's worst nightmares. It stood nearly 8 feet tall, with 4 arms ending in razor-sharp claws. Its head was elongated like an insect's, with compound eyes that glowed red in the dim light. When it spoke, its voice was translated by some kind of machine, making it sound cold and mechanical. "I am Kethver, Supreme Commander of the Zephyrian Empire. You will identify yourself, human?" Jake stepped forward, trying to keep his voice steady. "I am Admiral Jake Morrison of the United Earth Space Navy. You are in violation of Earth's sovereign space." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Sovereign space? How amusing. Your species has exactly 72 hours to surrender unconditionally to the Zephyrian Empire. If you refuse, we will cleanse your world of all life and claim it for ourselves." "And if we surrender?" Jake asked, though he already knew he wouldn't like the answer. "Then you will serve the Empire as slaves until your species proves useful, enough to earn a higher status. This is more mercy than we have shown most worlds." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Jake stared at the blank screen, his mind racing. 72 hours. 3 days to decide. The fate of humanity. On Earth. President Lisa Warren was already gathering the Global Defense Council in the emergency bunker beneath Washington. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes, but she had led humanity through 3 major crises in her 6 years as president. This would be her greatest test. General Sam Carter arrived first, his uniform crisp despite having been pulled from his bed at 3 in the morning. He was followed by Dr. Helen Brooks, the Secretary of State, and Admiral Morrison, who had been transported down from the Defiance by emergency shuttle. "What are we dealing with?" President Warren asked without preamble. Admiral Morrison activated the holographic display in the center of the room. 47 alien vessels, ranging from destroyer class to what can only be described as a mobile city. Their technology is clearly superior to ours by several centuries. "How superior?" General Carter asked. "They destroyed Luna Station with a single energy blast. The entire facility vaporized in seconds. Our most powerful weapons might scratch their paint." Dr. Brooks leaned forward. "What about negotiation?" "Surely they can be reasoned with." "They're not interested in negotiation," Admiral Morrison replied. "They want complete surrender or they'll kill everyone on Earth." President Warren studied the display showing the alien fleet. "How long do we have?" 72 hours from the time they delivered the ultimatum, which was 47 minutes ago. Across the globe, the news was already spreading. In New York, Captain Ryan Davis was coordinating the evacuation of Manhattan. The streets were filled with people carrying suitcases and bags, moving toward the subway entrances that led to the deep shelters built after the asteroid crisis of 2089. "Keep the lines moving," Ryan shouted to his officers. "We need to get everyone underground before those ships start shooting." An older man grabbed Ryan's arm. "Captain, my wife is still in the hospital. She can't be moved." "The medical teams are handling all hospital patients," Ryan assured him. "She'd be safe," but Ryan wasn't sure if anyone would be safe. The alien ships hung in the sky like storm clouds, visible even in daylight. Every few minutes, one would pulse with blue light, reminding everyone that death waited just above their heads. In the Colorado mountains, Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster was overseeing the activation of the emergency command centers. These facilities had been built during the Cold War and updated over the decades. They were designed to survive nuclear attacks, but no one knew if they could withstand alien weapons. "Status report," she called out to her team. "All primary systems are online," replied Sergeant Danny Clark. "We've got full communications with the other sites and enough supplies for 6 months." "Let's hope we don't need them that long," Amy muttered. Back in the emergency bunker, the debate continued. Some council members argued for immediate surrender, believing that survival as slaves was better than extinction. Others, led by General Carter, insisted that humanity should fight regardless of the odds. "We've faced extinction before," Carter argued. "The plague of 2076, the asteroid impact, the climate crisis. Every time we survived because we refused to give up." "This is different," Dr. Brooks countered. "Those were natural disasters. This is a technologically superior enemy with overwhelming force." President Warren listened to the arguments, but her mind was already made up. She had read the reports from the colonies that had tried to surrender to the Zephyrians. The survivors spoke of entire populations worked to death in alien factories, of children taken from their parents never to be seen again. "We have 69 hours and 30 minutes, she said finally. "I want every available resource focused on evacuation and defense preparation. If we're going to die, we'll die fighting." Admiral Morrison nodded grimly. "What about the ultimatum response?" President Warren stood up, her decision clear in her eyes. "I'll address the world in 12 hours. But I already know what I'm going to tell them." As the meeting broke up, each person returned to their duties knowing that the next 3 days would determine whether humanity had a future. The alien ships continued their silent watch, waiting for an answer that would seal the fate of both species. The countdown clock in the emergency bunker showed 12 hours remaining when President Lisa Warren stepped up to the podium. Around the world, billions of people stopped what they were doing to watch the transmission. In underground shelters, in military bases, in homes where families huddled together, everyone waited to hear their leader's words. Warren looked directly into the camera, her voice steady and clear. "My fellow humans, we stand at a crossroads that will define our species for all time. The Zephyrian Empire has given us a choice: surrender and live as slaves, or fight and face annihilation. I have made my decision, and I believe it reflects the true spirit of humanity." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We will not bow. We will not surrender. We will not trade our freedom for the promise of survival under alien masters. If they want our world, they will have to take it from us, and we will make them pay for every inch of ground with their blood." The transmission cut to scenes of preparation around the globe. In major cities, the last civilians were entering the deep shelters. Military units were taking positions in hardened bunkers. Scientists were working frantically to complete the experimental shield, generators that might protect key installations. 12 hours later, the alien response came without warning. The first energy blast struck the Pentagon at exactly noon Eastern Time. The massive building simply vanished in a flash of blue light, leaving only a perfect circular crater where it had stood. Within minutes, similar strikes hit military installations across the globe. The Kremlin, the Chinese Defense Ministry, the European Space Command, all gone in seconds. But the aliens quickly discovered that humanity had not spent the last 3 days sitting idle. Admiral Morrison watched from the bridge of the Defiance as the alien fleet began their bombardment. "Activate the shields," he ordered. Around the ship, a shimmering barrier of energy sprang to life. The experimental technology had been rushed into production using every available resource. When the alien weapon struck the shield, the energy was absorbed and redirected, protecting the ship and the underground facilities beneath it. "Shield holding at 80%, reported Lieutenant Foster. "They're not expecting this." Morrison smiled grimly. "Launch all fighters. Show them what humans do when cornered." Captain Rick Bennett led the first wave of Earth's defenders into space. His fighter squadron was outnumbered 50 to 1, but they had advantages the aliens didn't expect. Human pilots were unpredictable, willing to take risks that no sane commander would authorize. "Phoenix Squadron, this is Phoenix Leader," Rick called over the radio. "Remember, we're not trying to win this battle. We're trying to make them bleed." The human fighters dove into the alien formation like angry hornets. They used hit-and-run tactics, striking at the smaller ships and disappearing before the larger vessels could respond. Rick watched as his pilots performed maneuvers that would have been impossible for alien crews trained in standard fleet tactics. Fox 3, called out Lieutenant Sarah Walsh as she fired her missiles at an alien destroyer. The human weapons were primitive compared to alien technology, but they were designed with one purpose: to cause maximum damage to anything they hit. The destroyer's shields flickered and failed. The ship began to list as atmosphere vented from multiple hull breaches. It was the first alien ship to be seriously damaged since the war began. On the ground, the alien landing craft began touching down in major cities. The first troops to emerge expected to find a terrified population hiding in ruins. Instead, they found something far more dangerous. Colonel Maria Santos had positioned her forces in the abandoned buildings of downtown Chicago. When the alien dropships landed in Grant Park, they walked into a carefully prepared trap. Human soldiers opened fire from a dozen different positions, their weapons loaded with armor-piercing rounds designed to penetrate alien battlesuits. "Target their joints," Maria shouted into her radio. "Their armor is weaker where it bends." The aliens were technologically superior, but they had never faced an enemy that used such aggressive tactics. Human soldiers threw grenades into alien formations, fired from concealed positions, and retreated before the aliens could mount an effective counterattack. Private Danny Clark crouched behind a concrete barrier as alien energy weapons scorched the air above his head. "Colonel, they're trying to flank us from the east. Let them come," Maria replied. "Squad 7 is waiting for them." The battle raged for hours. The aliens gradually pushed the human forces back, but they paid a heavy price for every block they captured. Bodies of both species littered the streets, and the aliens began to realize that conquering Earth would not be the simple matter they had expected. In the underground bunkers, civilian leaders worked to maintain morale and coordinate resistance efforts. Mayor Tony Lewis had turned the Chicago subway system into a command center, coordinating with military units on the surface and ensuring that supplies reached the fighters. "We're getting reports from all over the city," he told his staff. "Our people are holding the line, but we're taking casualties." Dr. Beth Adams, who had been a pediatrician before the war, was now running a field hospital in the Denver underground. She treated wounded soldiers and civilians while alien weapons shook dust from the ceiling above. "How many more can we expect?" she asked a medic bringing in another stretcher. "The fighting's just getting started, Doc. This is going to be a long war." As the first day of battle ended, both sides took stock of their situation. The aliens controlled the skies and were slowly advancing through the major cities, but they had lost more ships and soldiers than in any previous conquest. The humans had been driven underground, but they were far from defeated. In the Zephyrian command ship, Kethver studied the battle reports with growing concern. His officers had expected the human military to collapse within hours. Instead, they were facing determined resistance that showed no signs of breaking. "Status report," he demanded. "We have secured landing zones in 12 major cities," reported his second-in-command. "However, human forces continue to offer organized resistance. Our casualties are higher than projected." Kethver's compound eyes glowed with anger. "How much higher?" 15% of our ground forces are dead or wounded. We've lost 8 ships to their fighters." For the first time since the invasion began, Kethver felt a flicker of doubt. No species had ever caused such losses to the Zephyrian Empire. These humans were proving far more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. On Earth, President Warren emerged from her bunker to address the world once again. Her face was streaked with dirt and her clothes were torn, but her voice was as strong as ever. "Today we showed the galaxy what humanity is made of. We bled, we suffered, and we lost friends and family, But we did not break. Tomorrow we fight. Again, and we will keep fighting until every last invader is driven from our world. The war for Earth's survival had begun. 6 months after the invasion began, the surface of Earth belonged to the Zephyrians, but the planet's heart still beat with human defiance. Commander Pete Jackson crouched in a maintenance tunnel beneath what used to be downtown Los Angeles, studying a map of the alien patrol routes. The tunnels that had once carried water and power to the city now carried something far more dangerous: human resistance fighters who refused to accept defeat. "The supply convoy comes through every Tuesday at 1400 hours, Pete whispered to his team. Same route, same escort, same arrogance. Agent Kate Miller checked her weapon, a modified rifle that fired armor-piercing rounds salvaged from destroyed alien equipment. How many guards? 12-foot soldiers, 2 hover tanks. Pete replied. We hit them at the intersection where they have to slow down. The resistance had learned to use the aliens' own predictability against them. The Zephyrians followed strict military protocols that made them efficient but also made them easy to ambush. They never expected an enemy to keep fighting after losing. Every major battle, 3 levels down, Sergeant Danny Clark was leading a different kind of mission. His team had spent weeks digging through collapsed subway tunnels to reach the alien communication hub. The Zephyrians had built their command center on top of the old city hall, thinking the symbolic victory would break human morale. Instead, it had given the resistance a target. Charges are set, whispered Corporal Lisa Hayes. 30 seconds and their whole network goes dark. Danny nodded. Remember, we're not trying to hold ground. Plant the bombs, cause chaos, and get out. The explosion that rocked the alien command center was felt throughout the underground network. In bunkers and tunnels across the city, human fighters smiled at the sound. Every blast meant the aliens were learning that Earth would never be truly conquered. The Zephyrians controlled the sky and most of the surface, but they had made a critical error. They had assumed that breaking human military forces would end all resistance. They had never encountered a species where ordinary citizens would take up arms and fight with the same determination as trained soldiers. Dr. Nina Roberts worked in a hidden laboratory 300 feet below the ruins of MIT. Her team had been studying captured alien technology for months, trying to understand how their weapons and ships functioned. The breakthrough came when they realized that all Zephyrian equipment operated on the same basic frequency patterns. It's like they built everything to work together, Nina explained to her assistant, Dr. Mark Chun. Same power system, same communication protocols, same everything. That makes them efficient, Mark replied. But it also makes them vulnerable. Nina smiled as she held up a small device. This transmitter can disrupt their entire system. If we can get it close enough to one of their major installations, we can shut down everything within a 5-mile radius. The device was the result of months of work by teams of scientists, engineers, and technicians who had refused to give up. They worked in hidden facilities powered by geothermal energy, connected by communication networks that the aliens had never detected. Mayor Tony Lewis had transformed the Chicago underground into a miniature city. The old subway tunnels now housed schools where children learned mathematics and history, alongside weapons training and demolitions. Hospitals treated wounded fighters while factories produced ammunition and equipment from salvaged materials. Production report, Tony asked his deputy, Carol White. We're making 3,000 rounds of ammunition per day, plus enough explosives to supply 15 resistance cells, Carol replied. The medical teams are requesting more antibiotics. Tell them we'll have a supply raid ready by Friday, Tony. Sod. The aliens just opened a new medical facility on the north side. Dr. Beth Adams moved through the underground hospital, treating patients by candlelight to avoid detection. The wounded came from all over the city, resistance fighters, civilian volunteers, even children who had been caught in crossfire. But she also saw something else in their eyes that gave her hope. Doctor, how's the boy in bed 7? Asked Nurse Jennifer Walsh. He'll live, Beth replied. And he'll fight again, they all will. The determination was spreading. Every day, more civilians joined the resistance. Teenagers who had lost their families became scouts and saboteurs. Elderly people who could barely walk became intelligents. Gatherers and safe house operators. The entire human population had become an army. The Zephyrians were learning that occupying Earth was nothing like their previous conquests. On other worlds, they had faced organized militaries that could be defeated in a few major battles. On Earth, they faced an entire species that treated every member as a potential soldier. Commander Kethver stood in his command center, studying reports from across the planet. The numbers were troubling. His forces controlled all major cities and transportation networks, but they were losing soldiers every day to human attacks. "Status report," he demanded. "We hold all strategic positions," reported his lieutenant. "But resistance activity has increased by 40% this month. They're becoming more organized and better equipped. How is that possible?" "We destroyed their military infrastructure. They're using underground facilities we didn't know existed. Their fighters appear to be using our own weapons against us." Kethver's mandibles clicked in frustration. "Double the patrols. Execute any humans found with weapons." "Sir, we're already executing 50 humans per day in reprisals. It only seems to increase resistance activity." For the first time in his career, Kethver was facing an enemy that grew stronger under pressure. Every executed human created 10 more fighters. Every destroyed building became a fortress. Every victory felt hollow because the humans never stopped. Fighting back. In the depths of the Colorado mountains, President Warren met with her surviving cabinet members. The government had been scattered across dozens of underground facilities, but it continued to function. They coordinated resistance activities, maintained communication with isolated communities, and planned for the future. "Intelligence reports indicate that the aliens are struggling with supply lines," reported General Carter. "Their ships need constant resupply, and we're disrupting their ground operations." "What about other planets?" Warren asked. "Are there any signs of resistance elsewhere?" "Actually, yes," replied Dr. Brooks. "Intercepted communications suggest that some previously conquered worlds are showing increased rebellion." "It seems our example is spreading," Warren nodded. "Then we're not just fighting for Earth, we're fighting for every world that refuses to bow to tyrants." As the meeting continued, reports came in from resistance cells around the globe. In Tokyo, fighters had destroyed an alien fuel depot. In London, saboteurs had collapsed a tunnel system that the aliens were using to transport heavy equipment. In Cairo, a coordinated attack had damaged 3 alien ships on the ground. The war was far from over, but humanity had proven something important. They could not be conquered by force alone. Every day they survived was a victory, and every alien casualty was a message to the galaxy. Earth's children would never surrender. The resistance had become more than a military campaign. It had become a way of life, a statement that some things were worth fighting for regardless of the odds. The aliens had wanted Earth's surrender, but they had awakened something far more dangerous: humanity's refusal to accept defeat. 2 years into the war, Dr. Nina Roberts stood in the underground laboratory watching her greatest creation come to life. The ship that rose from the hidden construction bay looked like nothing Earth had ever built before. Its hull was a mixture of human engineering and alien technology, sleek and deadly as a shark. "Final systems check complete," reported Dr. Mark Chun from the control station. "All hybrid systems are functioning normally." Nina smiled as she watched the ship's experimental engines glow with the same blue light as alien technology. "Send word to Admiral Morrison. The UES Retribution is ready for her first mission." The breakthrough had come when Nina's team discovered that alien technology could be reprogrammed using human computer systems. The Zephyrians had built their equipment to be efficient and standardized, but they had never considered that another species might be clever enough to turn their own weapons against them. Captain Steve Rogers climbed into the pilot's seat of the Retribution, feeling a mixture of excitement and fear. He had been flying human ships for 15 years, but this was something entirely different. The controls responded to his thoughts as much as his hands and the ship's sensors could detect. targets from thousands of miles away. "Retribution to base," Steve called over the radio. "All systems green, ready for launch?" "Roger, Retribution," came Admiral Morrison's voice. "Your target is the supply convoy heading for the Mars staging area. Show them what happens when humans fight back." The Retribution launched from the hidden base built inside an old mine shaft. The ship shot through the tunnel system and emerged into space like a bullet from a gun. For the first time since the invasion began, a human ship was hunting alien prey. The Zephyrian supply convoy consisted of 12 cargo ships protected by 4 destroyers. They were traveling the same route they had used for months, confident that no human ship could threaten them. The convoy commander, Sub-Captain Victor, was reviewing supply reports when his sensors detected something impossible. "Sir, we have a contact," reported his scanner operator. "Small ship, unknown configuration." "Human?" Victor asked. "The energy signature is unlike anything in our database. It appears to be using our own technology." Victor's compound eyes widened in alarm. "All ships, battle stations. Prepare for combat," but the human ship was already moving. Steve Rogers had studied alien tactics for 2 years, and he knew exactly how they would respond. The Zephyrians would try to surround him using their superior numbers, but they would never expect him to attack the largest ship first. The Retribution dove straight toward the lead destroyer, its hybrid weapons charging. Steve waited until the last possible moment before firing, his missiles striking the alien ship's shield generators. The destroyer's defenses collapsed just as the Retribution's energy weapons tore through its hull. "First blood to humanity," Steve muttered as he watched the alien ship break apart. The other destroyers tried to pursue, but the Retribution was faster and more maneuverable than anything they had faced. Steve used hit-and-run tactics, striking at the cargo ships while staying out of range of the heavy weapons. Within an hour, the entire convoy was either destroyed or fleeing. Steve set course for Earth, his ship's holds filled with captured alien supplies and technology. The psychological impact would be even more valuable than the physical victory. On Earth, the resistance networks received the news with celebration. Commander Pete Jackson gathered his fighters in the Los Angeles tunnels to hear the radio broadcast. "This is Free Earth Radio," came the voice of Sarah Walsh, now a resistance broadcaster. "Today, human forces achieved their first major victory. In space, the alien supply convoy bound for Mars has been completely destroyed by the new ship UES Retribution." The fighters cheered and embraced each other. For 2 years, they had fought knowing that every battle was just about survival. Now, for the first time, they had gone on the offensive, and Agent Kate Miller was leading a sabotage mission against an alien communication center when she heard the news. "You hear that?" she called to her team. "We're not just hiding anymore. We're hunting." The mission took on new urgency. Kate's team had been planning to disable the communication hub for a few hours. Now they decided to destroy it completely, cutting off alien forces across the entire region. The explosion that followed could be seen from orbit. The alien command center collapsed in a ball of fire, taking with it the coordination network for 3 major cities. Human resistance cells immediately launched coordinated attacks across the region, knowing that the aliens would be unable to respond effectively. In the underground cities, the news spread like wildfire. Mayor Tony Lewis called an emergency meeting of all resistance leaders in the Chicago area. "This changes everything," he told the assembled commanders. "We're no longer just trying to survive. We're trying to win." The psychological impact on the aliens was immediate and devastating. For 2 years, they had been told that human resistance was merely a minor inconvenience. Now they faced the possibility that the humans might actually be capable of victory. Commander Kethver stood in his command center, studying the wreckage of the supply convoy through long-range sensors. The human ship had disappeared as quickly as it had appeared, leaving only debris and unanswered questions. "How many ships like this do they have?" he asked his intelligence officer. "Unknown, sir. This is the first time we've encountered human technology that matches our own." "Where did they get our technology?" "They appear to have reverse engineered it from captured equipment." Our scientists said this was impossible. Kethvera's mandibles clicked in frustration. Our scientists have been wrong about these humans from the beginning. The defeat of the supply convoy sent shockwaves through the Zephyrian Empire. For the first time in their history, a conquered species had developed the technology to fight back effectively. Worse, intercepted communications indicated that other conquered worlds were beginning to ask questions about human resistance. Dr. Nina Roberts was already working on the next generation of hybrid ships when the intelligence reports arrived. The Resistance had intercepted alien communications that revealed something extraordinary. "They're having problems on other worlds," she told President Warren during a secure video conference. "The aliens are facing increased resistance on at least 6 planets. Inspired by our example?" Warren asked. "It appears so. The aliens are having to divert resources from the Earth occupation to deal with uprisings elsewhere." Warren smiled grimly. "Then we're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting for every world that refuses to bow to tyrants." The war had reached a turning point. Humanity was no longer just surviving, they were inspiring others to resist. The Zephyrian Empire, which had seemed invincible just 2 years earlier, was now facing the possibility of widespread rebellion across multiple worlds. General Carter coordinated with resistance leaders around the globe to plan the next phase of operations. "We have approximately 50 hybrid ships under construction," he reported. "Within 6 months, we'll have enough firepower to challenge their orbital defenses." "And on the ground?" Warren asked. "Resistance activity has increased by 300% since the convoy attack. The aliens are losing control of large areas, especially in mountainous and forested regions." The tide was turning. The aliens had wanted Earth's surrender, but they had awakened something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. Humanity had not just learned to fight back. They had learned to win. And their example was spreading across the galaxy like wildfire, inspiring others to throw off the chains of oppression. The next phase of the war would determine whether humanity would merely survive, or whether they would become the spark that ignited a galaxy-wide rebellion against the Zephyrian Empire. The alien prisoner sat in the holding cell deep beneath the ruins of Geneva, his forearms bound with chains made from his own ship's hull metal. Sub-Commander Thektar had been captured during a failed raid on a human supply depot, and now intelligence. Officer Grace Mitchell studied him through the reinforced glass. "He's been silent for 3 days," reported Sergeant Danny Clark. "Won't even respond to basic questions." Grace nodded. "They're trained to resist interrogation. But we have something they don't expect." She entered the cell carrying a tablet showing images from across the galaxy. The alien's compound eyes tracked her movement as she sat across from him. "Your empire is falling apart," Grace said calmly. "Rebellion on Kepler 442b, uprising on Gliese 667cc, full revolt on Proxima Centauri b, all because they saw what humans could do." Thektar remained silent, but Grace could see the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. "Your fleet is scattered across a dozen worlds trying to maintain control. Your supply lines are overextended. Your soldiers are questioning orders for the first time in their lives." She leaned forward. "Tell me about the command structure on your main base, and I'll make sure you live to see your home world again." The alien's resolve finally cracked. "The base. It orbits your outer planet, Saturn. 12 capital ships, 50 support vessels. Commander Kethver commands from the dreadnought Eternal Dominion." Grace smiled. "Thank you. You've just helped save both our species." Within hours, the intelligence was transmitted to President Warren and the military leadership. Admiral Morrison studied the tactical data from his new flagship, the UE's Vengeance, one of 30 hybrid vessels now ready for combat. "Operation Thunderstrike is approved," came Warren's voice over the secure channel. "You have full authorization to engage the enemy fleet." Morrison looked out at the formation of human ships gathering in the asteroid belt. Each vessel was crewed by fighters who had learned their trade in the underground war. They were outnumbered 3-1, but they had advantages the aliens couldn't understand. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison," he broadcast to the fleet. "Today we take the fight to them." Today we show the galaxy that humanity will not be conquered. On Earth, Major Ryan Davis led the simultaneous ground assault on the alien command center in what used to be Geneva. His forces had spent weeks tunneling beneath the alien fortifications, placing explosive charges at key structural points. "All teams report ready," came the voice of Colonel Maria Santos over the radio. "Charges are set, evacuation routes are?" "Clear," Ryan checked his watch. "Ground assault begins in 30 seconds. Remember, we're not trying to hold this position. We're trying to eliminate their command structure." The battle began with the detonation of 50 charges placed throughout the alien base. The massive structure, built from alien metal and considered impregnable, collapsed in a series of thunderous explosions. Human fighters poured through the gaps, their weapons loaded with armor-piercing rounds designed specifically for alien battlesuits. In space, the human fleet struck the alien base with surgical precision. Captain Steve Rogers led the first wave of fighters, diving through the alien defensive screen like a pack of wolves attacking a herd. "Phoenix Squadron, target their sensor arrays," Steve called over the radio. "Blind them before they can coordinate a response." The hybrid fighters moved with speed and agility that the alien vessels couldn't match. They had been designed by humans who understood that survival meant being faster, smarter, and more aggressive than the enemy. Commander Bennett, now leading his own squadron, targeted the docking bays where alien fighters were attempting to launch. "Griffin Squadron, follow me in. We take out their launch capability before they can scramble reinforcements." The alien fleet, caught completely off guard, struggled to respond to the coordinated attack. Their commanders had never faced an enemy that struck with such precision and fury. The humans weren't just fighting to win a battle. They were fighting to end a war on the surface of the command base. The fighting was brutal and personal. Human soldiers advanced through corridors filled with the bodies of both species, their faces grim with determination. "Target the command center," Major Davis shouted as his team fought their way through the alien defenders. "Take out their communications and they can't coordinate with the fleet." The aliens fought with the desperation of creatures who finally understood that they might lose. But they had been trained for conventional warfare against enemies who followed predictable patterns. They had never faced humans who treated every rule of combat as a suggestion to be ignored. Dr. Nina Roberts watched the battle from the bridge of the Vengeance, her hybrid technology performing beyond all expectations. The ship's weapons tore through alien shields like paper, while its armor absorbed energy blasts that would have destroyed any purely human vessel. "Their defensive patterns are breaking down," she reported to Admiral Morrison. "They're not adapting to our tactics," Morrison nodded. "They can't adapt. They've never faced an enemy like us." The tide of battle turned when Captain Rogers managed to penetrate the defenses of the command ship. His fighter squadron struck the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, killing Commander Kethver and throwing the entire alien fleet into chaos. "This is Phoenix, leader," Steve broadcast. "The alien commander is down. Repeat, their command structure is eliminated." Without central coordination, the alien fleet began to scatter. Individual ships tried to flee or fought desperate holding actions, but the human forces pressed their advantage with ruthless efficiency. On Earth, the alien command center fell after 6 hours of fighting. Major Davis stood in the ruins of the communication hub, watching his soldiers destroy the last of the alien equipment. "All stations, this is ground control," he reported. "The Geneva command center is secure. All alien communication systems are offline." The battle had cost humanity dearly. Nearly half the human fleet was damaged or destroyed, and ground casualties were severe. But the strategic victory was complete. The alien fleet was broken, their command structure was eliminated, and their ability to coordinate the occupation was shattered. President Warren addressed the world from the ruins of the alien command center, her uniform torn and her face blackened with smoke. "Today we proved that no empire can stand against the fury of free people," she said. "The aliens came to our world expecting easy conquest. Instead, they found their doom. The Zephyrian occupation of Earth is over. Across the planet, human. Resistance fighters emerged from their underground hideouts to find alien forces in full retreat. The war was not yet finished, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, watching the last alien. Ships flee toward the outer system. Signal all ships, he ordered. Pursuit course. We finish this now. The hunter had become the hunted, and humanity was no longer content with mere survival. They wanted justice, and they would not stop until every alien invader was driven from human space. The new Zephyrian commander, Sub-Admiral Riekthar, stood in the emergency command ship drifting near Jupiter's moons, watching his empire crumble through intercepted communications. 6 worlds were in open rebellion, 3 more had gone completely. Silent, and his fleet around Earth was scattered and broken. "Status report," he demanded, his voice tight with desperation. 17 ships remain operational, reported his aide. The humans are pursuing our retreating forces. They show no signs of stopping their advance. Riektar's mandibles clicked nervously. "Open a channel to the human fleet." "Sir, you heard me. Open a channel." The transmission reached Admiral Morrison aboard the Vengeance as the human fleet closed in on the remaining alien forces. Morrison had lost many good ships and crews in the battle, but victory was within reach. "This is Sub-Admiral Riekthar of the Zephyrian Empire," came the alien voice. "I request immediate negotiation for cessation of hostilities." Morrison exchanged glances with Dr. Nina Roberts, who stood beside him on the bridge. "After 3 years of war, now they want to talk?" "Admiral Morrison," came President Warren's voice over the secure channel, "you are authorized to receive their communication." Morrison activated the response channel. "This is Admiral Morrison of the United Earthspace Navy. You have 1 minute to state your terms. We propose immediate withdrawal of all Zephyrian forces from your solar system in exchange for safe passage and recognition of neutral status between our peoples." The bridge fell silent. For a moment, Morrison considered the offer. It would end the bloodshed and give humanity time to rebuild. But then he thought of the millions who had died in the underground war, the children who had grown up knowing only bombs and fear, the cities that lay in ruins. "Your offer is rejected," Morrison said coldly. "You came to our world demanding unconditional surrender. Now you face the same choice you gave us: surrender unconditionally or face complete annihilation." "You cannot be serious," Riekthar replied. "We offer you peace." "You offered us slavery," Morrison shot back. "The time for negotiation ended when you fired the first shot at Earth. You have 1 hour to surrender your remaining ships, or we will destroy them." Riekthar cut the transmission, but Morrison could see the alien ships beginning to move into defensive positions. They had chosen to fight rather than surrender. "All ships, battle stations," Morrison ordered. "Finish what they started." The final battle was swift and decisive. The remaining Zephyrian ships, demoralized and outgunned, put up token resistance before being overwhelmed by human forces. Captain Steve Rogers led the fighter squadrons that destroyed the last alien destroyer, while Captain Bennett's ships eliminated the command vessel carrying Riekthar. "This is Phoenix, leader," Steve reported. "All alien ships are destroyed or surrendering. The solar system is clear." On Earth, the news spread like wildfire through the underground networks. In Chicago, Mayor Tony Lewis emerged from the tunnels to see sunlight for the first time in 3 years. In Los Angeles, Commander Pete Jackson watched alien troops laying down their weapons and surrendering to human forces. "It's over," Pete said into his radio. "The war is over." Dr. Beth Adams walked through the ruins of Denver, treating wounded soldiers from both sides. The alien wounded looked at her with confusion as she worked to save their lives. "Why do you help us?" asked one injured Zephyrian soldier. "We destroyed your cities." "Because the war is over," Beth replied simply. "And because we're better than you thought we were." President Warren stood in the ruins of Washington, addressing a world that was finally free. Behind her, work crews were already beginning to clear the rubble and plan for reconstruction. 3 years ago, the Zephyrian Empire came to Earth expecting easy conquest, she said. They found instead a species that will never bow to tyranny. Today we stand victorious not just over our invaders but over the fear and despair they tried to impose upon us. The camera panned to show human ships launching from hidden bases around the world. These were not warships but exploration vessels carrying diplomats, scientists, and engineers. The galaxy is vast, and we have learned that we are not alone, Warren continued. Today, we send messengers to the worlds that were enslaved by the Zephyrian Empire. To those who still suffer under alien rule, we say this: you are not forgotten. Liberation is coming. The first human expedition ship to leave Earth's solar system was the USS Liberty, commanded by Captain Rogers. Its mission was to reach Proxima Centauri b and make contact with the human-inspired rebellion there. This is Captain Rogers to Earth. Control, Steve transmitted as his ship entered hyperspace. Beginning jump to Proxima system. Tell them we're coming. Admiral Morrison remained in Earth orbit, overseeing the construction of new shipyards and defensive platforms. The war had taught humanity that they needed to be ready for anything the galaxy might throw at them. How many ships can we build? He asked Dr. Roberts. With the captured alien technology and our own improvements, we can have 100 ships operational within 2 years, she replied. But Admiral, are we really going to war with the entire Zephyrian Empire? Morrison looked out at the stars. No, Doctor. We're going to liberate it. Across the galaxy, the news of Earth's victory spread through underground resistance networks and secret communication channels. On Kepler 442b, rebel leader Zarakoth received the transmission with tears in her eyes. Did you hear that? She called to her fellow fighters. The humans won. Earth is free. What does that mean for us? Asked one of her lieutenants. It means hope, Zara replied. It means the Empire can be beaten. On worlds throughout Zephyrian space, the impossible had become possible. A single planet had stood against the mightiest empire in the galaxy and won. If humans could do it, then perhaps freedom was within reach for everyone, the Zephyrian High Command. Receiving reports from the disaster at Earth, called an emergency session. For the first time in their history, they faced the possibility of total defeat. The humans have technology equal to our own, reported the intelligence minister. Worse, they have inspired rebellion across 17 worlds. Our empire is collapsing. What do you recommend? Asked the supreme leader. Immediate negotiation for peace terms. The humans have proven they cannot be conquered. But it was too late for negotiations. The human fleet was already moving toward the next system, carrying with them a message that would echo across the galaxy. Oppression would no longer be tolerated, and freedom was worth any price. The war that had begun with humanity fighting for survival had become something greater. It had become a crusade for the liberation of every enslaved world in the galaxy. The Zephyrians had wanted Earth's surrender, but they had awakened humanity's wrath instead, and that wrath would not be satisfied until every chain was broken and every tyrant was cast down. The age of the Zephyrian Empire was ending, and the age of human liberation had begun. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, as if the universe itself celebrated the victory of the small blue world that had refused to surrender.